Hey, hi ho, and howdy everybody. My name is Shannon Shook, and today I'm thinking about talking about something just a little bit extra. Hey, I just met you. And this is crazy. But here's my number. So call me maybe. The fuck was this intro? Okay, so I was sitting here waiting, like setting up. I'm sorry, I'm moving the mic. I set this all up so that it was good, and then I immediately decided I hated it. Anyway, I was sitting here, I was fucking around with the. I started singing that song for some. Anyway, we are here once again to talk about another episode of RWBY here on the RWBY Review Cap Extra. Once again, you don't have a real review cap because I am literally the worst fucking person on this platform, and that is saying so very much. Yeah, so we're here to talk about RWBY Volume 5, Chapter 5, Necessary Sacrifice. Again, this one's probably going to be at least relatively short because, again, it's broken down into 3 parts. There's not too much to talk about in any of them, really. There's just kind of really 1 or 2 things that I want to mention in each. And I'll try not to just give a complete and utter play-by-play like I did last time. What is this, a review cap? Just say what happened to the episode. Anyway, I don't even know what a review cap is. But I really enjoy making them, which is why I kind of want to get through these last ones, because I definitely want to get back on the train down to Folsom Prison by the time episode 9 comes out, because episode 8 was kind of fucking wild, and I would like to do a review cap on that episode and whatever comes next. But for right now, we're not talking about that. We're talking about Chapter 5. And you know what happens in Chapter 5? 3 things. First thing is Sun and Blake. They're in Menagerie. They're out there. They're getting signatures. They're getting people. They're rounding them up, and then everyone's like, "Nah, we don't want nothing to do with this. You want us to go save Haven? Nah, we ain't fucking around with that." So they're like, "Nah, we ain't gonna do this." And then they get really sad, and then they go sit down, and so then Blake and Sun, and they're like, "Fuck, no one wanted to sign our fucking paper. No one gives a shit about anything." And basically, the two of them just kind of sit down and really quickly discuss why, obviously, that isn't a thing that people would want to do. And basically comes down to, well, if you live in Menagerie, you probably, and at least if you moved there to get the fuck away from people. You don't want anything to do with the outside world. It's all a bunch of crazy motherfuckers, huntsmen killing each other and shit, and there's all this, like, people destroying academies, and just like, no, we don't want any part of that. We live in Menagerie. It's nice here. Look at this. Look at these trees, boy. We don't have trees up there like that. So they want nothing to do with it, which makes total sense. That being said, I get where they're coming from in that they don't want to have to fight other people's battles for them. They don't want to have to go in and, you know... I talked about this in another episode. It's the idea of you don't want to have to fight a battle that isn't yours, or at least that you don't feel is yours. I think it was an episode, chapter 3, the review cap thing for that I did. I basically went on to talk about how, you know, you're asking people to fight on behalf of other people that isn't them, so they feel like it doesn't affect them. Even if it does affect them in the end, they don't want nothing to do with it. That's kind of the whole idea. The other thing they go on to talk about is Blake basically gives a little bit of a recap to Sun on things that we learned in the Blake character short that we got to see before the season came out, which was basically Ilya's backstory, giving opinions on that. And so, just explaining that to him. Anyway, she goes on, and after that, which there's nothing too much to talk about, it's very much a repeat. And then Sun goes on to ask Blake just a little bit about Adam, because obviously that is a topic of conversation to be had between those two at some point. And Blake goes on to and asks Sun if he's ever done this thing, which I've done before. I've looked at it that way. It's an incredibly oversimplified way of looking at the world, but it is an interesting kind of thought experiment to do, which is the idea of looking at the people around you, your friends, your family, and stuff like that, your enemies, whatever it is, and looking at them and seeing in your mind a single word that personifies them. She goes on to explain that she views, say, RWBY as purity, which I get a lot, because she very much is that. She is the victory is in a simple soul kind of individual. She has her goal and her want, which is to protect people, to be the hero in the storybooks, to do all that. She's got a pure. She's driven by that one kind of honest mindset. That's what she wants. She goes on to explain Weiss's defiance, which makes a ton of sense from everything we've seen. I'm a little iffy on it because I don't know how much Weiss and Blake got around to talking before they got separated, because a shit ton of her defiance gets shown off in like Volume 4 and Volume 5. And a little bit in Volume 3, but you never really see those two talk about it, so I would have to assume it was stuff that was talked about off the screen. Then Yang is strength, which again makes a ton of sense. It's very fitting for her character, whether it's just talking purely physically, and then about her attitude on life and her willingness to take care of and protect others, protecting RWBY, being almost a mother figure to her in a way. There might have been another one that she mentions, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But the other one that I do know that she mentions is she references Adam being spite. Instead of being like anger or malice or hatred or whatever, she refers to him as being spite. And she kind of goes on to explain it's not about being a dick. It's not about doing all this. It's, in the end, it's about getting the justice that he thinks he deserves for how the world treated him, which goes on to make me question. I mean, it's something a lot of people have asked, is exactly why Adam is so fucked up. What happened to him that made him go, you know what, I just fucking hate humans. They're just the worst fucking things on the planet. Let's just fucking kill them all. And it's very noticeable where you get the spite in relation to her. Because even at the end of the episode, you see that just pure unbridled spite, just how fucking unbelievably pissed he is at Blake, and what he's gonna go through to just fuck her life up. Go back to Volume 3 and him giving the statement of, I will make it my mission to destroy everything that you love. It's one of those things, like, he deep down is just the personification of, oh, someone fucked me over, I'm going to ruin them. I'm going to tear them the fuck apart. Because he's just that kind of an asshole. And it comes down to, again, you have to wonder how justified he is in that, at least when it comes to, say, his really unpleasant outlook on humanity. Because when I look at him and his fucking shit with Blake, I'm like, okay, you need to calm the fuck down. So, yeah, I've been through heartbreak before, dude. Never once was I like, I want to fucking kill her and everyone that she cares about. No, you know what I was like? I was like, fuck, I miss her. And that was how it went. And then I cried myself to sleep, and then I moved the fuck on. And then I kind of didn't, though. My heart, it's fucking terrible. But you know what I never did was like, I'm gonna fucking cut her head off, because I'm not an asshole. Let me phrase that. I'm an asshole, but I'm not that kind of asshole. And that's the thing that I find really interesting, because I want to know what it was that drove Adam to be such a cock to all of humanity. Because the way, Blake kind of makes it out to look like is he obviously had some shit happen very early on in his life, which very heavily painted a picture of humanity as just the worst fucking things ever. And I'm curious to know what it was that that did that. What was the thing that, or the series of things that built up to push him over that limit of, oh, I'm not fighting for equality anymore. I'm fighting for fucking subjugation. That's something I'm very interested in and I want to see more of. And then she also, on that same vein of talking about other things, son, of course, cheerfully, charismatically, asks her what she views him as, and she goes kind of like, I'm thinking Ernest. So it's kind of it's a very cute scene between the two of them, and it helps flush their characters out a bit more. And I really like that. And again, it does intrigue me a lot, because it's been something I've been wondering for a while, and I know it's something a lot of people have been wondering for a while, is exactly what it was that turned Adam into such a just fucking dick. So until we see any of that, that's that. The second kind of section of the episode is devoted to Oscar and RWBY. And that is, Oscar's kind of dicking around, training a little bit in his little dojo areas, with the cane, practicing swinging it about, all sword-like and whatnot. Given some kind of flashbacks to Jean's little training session, back in the previous volume, just with a little less tears. So anyway, he's training there for a while and getting kind of worked up over it, and then RWBY comes down the stairs and ends up just being like, hey, dinner's almost ready, come on, man, let's go do that and whatnot. And it's in this scene that Oscar kind of has a little bit of a breakdown. It kind of sinks in fully that he wanted something more. He didn't want to just be a farmhand. It's the classic stories. You want to be the hero. You don't want to be just some dude who's fucking growing carrots in the middle of fucking Mistral for no reason. I say for no reason. There's reasons for carrots. Hey, bitch, put that shit in a stew. A nice soup. Perhaps spaghetti. I know not everyone's about that life, but very early on in my life, my father used to make spaghetti, but with like carrot and celery in it. And it's fucking delicious, and I'm mad that I haven't had it again in years. One of these days, I'll make the shit. I'll do it. Leave me the fucking... I'll eat my goddamn carrot spaghetti. Point is, Oscar kind of does have a little bit of a breakdown, and he basically reveals to RWBY that he's not taking it well, and he's like, yeah, I wanted to be a hero, but who the fuck would ever ask to be put in this kind of situation? Who the fuck wants to have some sort of old, creepy, weird fuck living in his fucking brain, being forced to fight this thing that he really doesn't want anything to do with, getting thrown into the relationship with all these other fucking people, even if it's becoming increasingly fucking obvious that Oscar and RWBY have a little bit of a, I like that ass, and I like that ass. He's 14. Calm down. It's a joke, but not really. Kind of. He's a human being. They're allowed to have emotions. The age matters not. Acting on those can be questionable as fuck, but moving on. But yeah, no. So fucking Oscar kind of unloads on that and basically forces her to give her just like how the fuck can you deal with this? How can you constantly always have this face of, oh, everything's fine, it's always happy? And it's something that I do want to talk about. It's honestly probably the biggest thing I want to talk about in this episode. Is one of the single biggest complaints that I ever see about RWBY as a show is RWBY is the main character, is Homegirl herself. And that is, a lot of people feel she has no character development. A lot of people are really upset that she's not constantly changing in emotions right in front of your eyes. And it's this thing which I 100% understand where people are coming from with that argument. That being said, it has never bothered me because I understand very simply that some people, some human beings, don't show that. They don't ever show the world affecting them. They don't ever. They're that's the kind of human being that they are. Something I kind of want to talk about. My younger brother, for example, is one of those kind of people who, generally speaking, the vast majority of the time you just talk to, and you're like, oh, nothing in the world phases this guy. He's just always this, like, oh, I'm just like, yeah, I'm just here, whatever. And that's not the case. It's the way it looks, but you have to realize that there's an entire world going on. There's an entire thought process. There's all this stuff going on in that person's head, whether they show that to you or not. And some people are like, well, that's the problem of the writers, is they don't show that. And I think, I understand where you're coming from with that. But I 100% think that, too, is a certain amount of it has to come down to you just looking at a character, seeing the things that they are going through, and being able to try to extrapolate how they feel about it yourself. If that makes any sense whatsoever. I understand why people want to see how every little thing affects RWBY. And every once in a while, you'll get a glimpse of that. You'll get a scene like, I think it's chapter 2 of volume 4, where she's having fucking nightmares about Pyrrha and other things along that line. And in this episode, she goes on to actually talk about it and talk about the loss of Penny and Pyrrha and how that completely fucked her up. But she realizes in the end is the same thing from the very beginning, is she knows that she has to be this person who is composed. She has to be this person who is strong enough to lead people. She fully believes she has to be the hero in those old storybooks, like she talks about early on in the very early on in the series, and kind of back to Blake's view of her as purity. And a lot of people, I understand, have an issue with that because it feels like that character isn't growing. And then they feel like it's a bad character because of that. And I can't get behind that mindset. Again, I understand where you're coming from, but I can't commit to like, oh yeah, no, it's a bad character, because it's not. Because some people just don't do that. They don't act that way. They lock everything up inside them. They put a smile on even if they don't want to. They do it because they feel they absolutely have to. And RWBY has always struck me as that kind of character. And there's lots of characters like that in anime and shows and books and things. This kind of character who doesn't always seem like they have this, that doesn't even have this intense story arc of change and growth as a character, because it isn't always 100% necessary. Sometimes some people don't really change. Some people, yeah, everyone kind of changes in their own little ways, but that's just the thing, is sometimes you don't change in a just dramatic way. Sometimes you don't always just break down and start weeping and completely change who you are as a person. Some people do, but some people just don't. Every once in a while, sometimes that'll break through, and eventually I suspect that that's entirely possible. That's the thing. It comes back to like Lindsay not forever ago, but a little while back, got asked a question of like, what is something you'd like to see? And she's like, oh, I'd want to see RWBY hit a point of absolute break, like where she just completely, it sinks and it hits, and she realized that she can't do that forever. And if we need to wait a while to get to that, I'm 100% fine. And if we want to do that, I am 100% fine. I like that kind of character development. But if we never got that, I don't think that would harm my opinion of her as a person or as a character, because I understand that that's just not the way some people work. And this is the hugest thing, and it comes down to that way for most any time I end up defending writing of any kind, is it ends up being like, oh, well, this, and I'm like, well, yeah, but you have to realize that also sometimes in life, that doesn't happen. Maybe most of the time, maybe the vast majority of the time, but not all of the time. and you have to accept that. It comes back to the same thing that I talked about with Sienna Khan in the review cap. I talked about how I understand. Well, I think I talked about this. I might have actually cut that section out. I don't remember. I know I cut out like 2 huge chunks. There was one little bit of behind the scenes stuff is for the second episode of the review cap, where it's that scene with Adam and Sienna. There was a whole like 2.5 minute long rant where I went fucking ape shit on people who had a problem with Adam and like cutting through aura and whatnot. I got so mad, and I'm like, I can't put this out on video. This makes me seem like an asshole. So I cut it out, but so I think I left this part in though, because I thought it was really important, and that was the discussion of sometimes in life you don't get what you want. Sometimes like life is finite. You don't always get a chance. You don't always get the chance that you want. I lost, for example, a little while ago, a couple of years ago now, I guess, I lost my uncle to a drug overdose. For years, he'd been having trouble with that kind of thing, and we're always having the subject of, oh, he's at it again, shit's going wrong, and he ended up going to jail or prison, and he eventually got out a little while later, and it's a weird thing to talk about, because anytime I bring up something like Facebook, it's just like, oh, this is, but then I realize it's also a part of our daily lives now. But I got a friend request on Facebook one day, and it was from Brian, and hit me like, oh, there's my uncle, and he's this, and he wants to apparently talk again and chat and like try and like, oh, I'm gonna get my life back on track. We're talking. For whatever reason, I saw that, and I was like, I'll put it off. I don't know if I want to talk to him after everything. And I put it off, and I put it off, and I put it off until about a month later, when we got a phone call where we heard that he had passed away because of a drug overdose. And it was one of those things where it didn't affect me anywhere near as bad as it affected, say, my dad. It hit him incredibly fucking hard, and it was brutal to watch. I can't express to you how much watching people that I care about hurts me. So, like, it fucking breaks my very soul. It's fucking ridiculous. As much as it affected him and as little as it affected me, it wasn't... that rest that night, I didn't really feel anything. And I woke up the next day, and then I went on Facebook, and I saw that, like, friend request. And that was when it hit me that I'll never get to say hey to him again. I'll never get to go, oh, hey, I'm so glad that you're out and that you're trying to get your life back together. I never got to maybe be a friend that he might have needed to pull him out of that place that he was in that eventually led to him not being there anymore. I'll never get that chance. But that's just the way life is. It was a decision that I made, or in this case, didn't really make. It was an action I didn't take, I guess I should say. And in the end, that just kind of... that's how it went. And I can't change that. Sometimes things just happen that you have no control over, and it doesn't make for a good story. It's not this perfectly well-crafted thing, because that's not what life is. Life isn't a perfectly crafted story. And if every single a work of fiction was, everything would feel manufactured and garbage to me. At least that's the way I look at it, because it would feel like there is no real feeling and reality to it. That's why I look at Siena's Death and I see Oh. Yep. That's what happened. Because Adam was there and he did it, and that's the kind of person he is, and yeah, we missed out on a character. You're right. Do I think it's a waste of a character? Absolutely not. Because as far as I'm concerned, I look at fiction through the prism of, well, if that was reality, would I consider that a waste, or would I consider just another tragedy? Just another thing that sometimes happens in life. And that comes back to RWBY again. Yeah, maybe she's not a perfectly well-crafted character. She's not this intricate web of emotions. And yeah, no, she's just a person. She's just a person who happens to go about things in a certain way. Because that's how certain people sometimes do things. I go back to my brother again. That's the kind of person my brother is. And yeah, once or twice, I've seen him hit that point of break where he could not do that anymore. It literally happened maybe, when did I leave for my trip? It happened the day before I left for my trip. But you know how long it took for that to get there? I had not seen my brother cry since he was at least 10. And then that day, the day before we left, was the first time I had seen my brother cry in 8 years. Sometimes those kinds of people just exist where they act that way. And maybe eventually they will reach that point. Because everyone has a breaking point. So it's entirely possible that RWBY will have that. And in this scene, you get her talking about Penny and Perry. You can see that it does affect her. But you also see that, yeah, she says what she said she does from the very beginning. Which has been made abundantly clear from the very beginning, is she's the kind of person who just fights past that. She puts on a smile because she has to. She thinks in her mind that she has to be this person, this beacon of hope. Because that's just the kind of person she is. And a lot of people, again, it comes down to, well, maybe she needs to grow into a different person. And I'm like, maybe she doesn't. Not everyone has to radically change. I'm going way too deep into this, and I've been talking on it way too long. I literally said at the beginning of this episode that it was going to be a short one because I didn't have a ton that I was going to talk about. But then it occurred to me, oh, I have a fuck ton to talk about very specifically with this RWBY part. But I've said basically what I want to say is I feel that people, and it comes with any criticism, everyone wants to be a critic and they want to take it to the extreme. Everything has to be this perfect, well-crafted story. Everything has to fit perfectly, and if it doesn't fit perfectly, then it's not worth existing. And that bugs the absolute shit out of me. Because life in itself is inherently imperfect. Everybody in life, the characters in this great story of ours, are inherently very imperfect. From both they're a complex imperfect, and just a really fucking plain and boring imperfect. And sometimes that's just the way life is. And I feel like if stories don't have that, they feel inherently manufactured, to me at least. And it's one of those things where, like, I'm an inherently positive person. I can't ever really bring myself to be too negative about anything, because I fucking hate that, because for the vast majority of my life, I was a piece of shit. Like, I was a complete and utter garbage bag who fucking shit on everything that everyone loved. Honestly, I kind of think of it as, like, I guess I was a bit of a hipster, I want to say, but like a really shitty one, like one who was just a total asshole to everybody, like, oh, everything that you like is garbage. How can you do this and this and this? And it's like, it occurs, I'm so glad that I'm not that kind of person. Even when I have a feeling like I don't like something, I literally mentioned Future World, which if you've never seen it is a really, really, really bad movie. In a recent episode of, say, Pokemon. I talked about that, and I just casually were like, that's a really bad movie. And even, like, as soon as it fell out of my mouth, even though that is a factual fucking statement, that is a really not great movie, I felt bad about it. It felt like I wasn't giving it a fair shake. I was. But it felt inherently wrong because that's the kind of person that I am. That being said, and when I say that and I look at it and like, oh, well, maybe that means I'm just a terrible critic because I can't judge things adequately. And then I have to look at it as, yeah, sometimes I do that and it's inherently not helpful. That being said, this is something that I do feel very passionately about, and that's that sometimes in life, certain things just are. And that is something that I will always stand behind when it comes to my writing, to anyone else's writing. And I can't ever bring myself to talk negatively about it because I've lived a life full of things that are just inherently fucking terrible and garbage. And it shouldn't have happened. But it did. They did. All these things happened to me. But I'm still here. I'm go about it. It hurts. Fucking sucks. But you know what? That's how it is. It doesn't make for a great story all the time, but you know what? It just is. And that is, and that makes it feel more real to me, I guess. And I think that's why I care about it more. It's one of the reasons I've mentioned before, RWBY's one of my favorite shows because it doesn't feel perfect. It feels just kind of right to me, even in its imperfection. Again, I'm going to fucking drop this because this was supposed to be a short episode, and it's basically just turned into like an hour-long fucking podcast. So we're gonna move on past this. That scene basically ends with RWBY giving her explanation of why she, all the things we just talked about, why she puts on that face. Going so far as to say, if the roles had been reversed, if it had been Pyrrha instead of her, she knows Pyrrha would have had to do the same. She would have been the one to take up that, take up the mantle and fight along, because that's just what they have to do. It's not something you always ask for, but is something that you feel you have to do. And she kind of wins Oscar back over, throws out a keep moving forward line, which breaks my fucking heart. It's not, this is another real small thing that I have to bitch about other people. Some people were like, oh, just running this into the ground. It's like, fuck you. It's a monument to, or it's a fucking statement to the goddamn guy who made the fucking show. Fuck you. I don't like, nah. Just get over it. It's a saying. It's the mantra of RWBY at this point. So what if they say it a couple times? How dare they be fucking positive and remember their dear friend? What the fuck? This review cap is making me salty as fuck. But anyway, so that was basically how that ends, and RWBY goes off and plays a fun little joke on Nora with the whole her being a fat fucking pig and eating everything thing. And then RWBY and her go off there, and RWBY and Oscar go off, and Ozpin and Oscar have a little conversation about, you know, how they view RWBY, and Oscar's all like, yeah, she's pretty fucking fantastic, and he's like, oh, she is quite good. I bet she was one of the best. She's a person. But that's kind of why she's so good, is it's that simple soul thing. Anyway, that is the end of that little section. Hashtag I ship Rose Garden. Anyway, so then the next the next little part is the ending, which of course, if you've seen the thumbnail and or watched the episode, because that's probably why you're watching this if it's so spoilery. But if you've seen the episode, obviously, is Corsic, Fennec, Ilya, and Adam, and Yuma. So yeah, no, in this last section, Corsic and Fennec are basically talking in their little White Fang hideout in Menagerie, taking place very, very shortly after they just got a call from Edgelord himself. And they're basically going on about, like, well, this is... Adam's a little fucked, right? And they're like, well, yeah. But, I mean, you kind of need him. And it kind of brings up a topic, especially towards the end of this little discussion, where they're like, well, yeah, Adam's a little fucked, right? Like, do you think we should maybe, you know, not let his fucking ass stay here? And they're like, oh, yeah. for now, it's okay. So it definitely gives off the impression that Corsic and Fennec feel that they are 100% in charge, or at least Corsic does. He gives off an impression of like, oh yeah, no, I'm manipulating everything. That's okay. If Adam gets out of line, we'll give him the fucking Sienna treatment. Who gives a shit? Like he feels 100% he's like, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a shit. I don't give a fuck. I don't give. If I did give a shit, I don't give a fuck. Like this is just kind of person that he seems to be. Is very manipulative, and it actually brought a lot of people like, oh, Adam's got a lot of people working against him. If even the people who are working with him are like, if we need to get rid of him, we'll chuck his ass to the side. Some Game of Thrones type shit. Just like, you're fucking disposable. I like that. Do I think that any of that would work? No, I think Adam would rip those motherfuckers in half. That being said, I think it's interesting. So anyways, they basically go on to talk for just a moment, and then Ilya makes her way into the room. They explain to her that, yeah, Sienna is now gone. They've had her funeral. They're explaining, they've sent out the kind of fake message of, oh, a human huntsman killed her. So she's kind of playing the role of the martyr. And basically they go on to say, okay, so now that that's done, I guess we gotta do something else too. And they're like, how about we just kill the Belladonnas? And they're like, what? But I don't want that though. Anyway, so yeah, they're like, Kali and Gira are gonna have to fucking go. Adam did say that while they have to fucking go, and potentially Sun then too, since he's palling around with them, they're like, yeah, we want to get rid of Gira and Kali because they're a fucking problem for us. We can also, not kill Blake because Adam wants her because he's a fucking freak. So basically, they give off the message to Ilya that she's gonna have to take part in the fucking execution of the Belladonnas and the capture of Blake, so that they can send her off to Adam to presumably get fondled in a dungeon somewhere. Just look at his fucking face and he creeps me the fuck out. Fucking love that character. And that's something I want to talk about, because that's basically all I need to say about Ilya and them. Other than Ilya obviously shows a little bit of like, I don't know if I'm 100% on board with this. Kind of bothers me, but I'll get it done. I'll do it, but fuck. Anyway, she heads off. And then as soon as she leaves, they go and replay Adam's... I have a tickle in my throat and it's pissing me off so much. They replay Adam's message, which is kind of what leads them to go, he's kind of off his fucking rocker, isn't he? But they replay Adam's message, and this is where I mentioned in, I think it was episode 3 again, I was talking about giving props to Adam for a later performance, to Garrett for a later Adam performance. And this is fucking it. Because as soon as he goes on, he is fucking just like, oh, the Belladonnas are a bunch of cunts. Like, he is just so fucking angry and pissy, and I fucking loved it. Garrett, again, gave a phenomenal fucking performance. He just came off as so pissed, and it was just, the Belladonnas have been nothing but a fucking blemish on my goddamn life. Kill them all. Also, round up homegirl, because I'm gonna have a word with her. And that was something that I really dug. I thought it was cool. He did a great job playing a fucking crazy dude. Garrett, again, he has his moments where it just doesn't quite work, but when he nails it, fuck does he nail it. That was just something I had to give major props to. And after that ends, again, they go on to talk a little bit about how Adam is a little expendable, at least to them, and they're not too worried about him going completely fucking crazy because they can just get rid of him, like they did Sienna, and now they intend to do with the Belladonnas. After that, a new individual shows up, a Brother Yuma, which is a bat. From what I understand, it's a bat faunus. A lot of people I know had guessed, had been kind of questioning exactly what it was. It was a bird, faunus, or whatever. But after seeing later episodes and seeing this episode a couple more times, it becomes pretty fucking clear that, yeah, he's a bat faunus. I think Yuma's even kind of a reference to a bat in a certain kind of bat, I think. Don't quote me on that. Yeah, bat faunus, and basically they're like, well, what about Gira's messenger that he said he was going to send off to Mistral? And they're like, he rests beneath the waves. So yeah, Yuma's off killing messengers and shit. So that means so much for Gira and Kali's and Blake's plan to warn everybody and get everyone on board in Mistral. So, well, damn. So anyway, that's basically where the episode ends. With those two fox-eared fucks giving their creepy-ass grins. And again, I did really like this episode. I'm sorry for going on so fucking long, especially with a lot of that personal shit in the middle. It's stuff that I've wanted to talk about for a very long time now, and this was, I feel like, the perfect episode to talk about it in. And I'm actually, this is one of those moments where I'm really glad that this was just kind of a review cap extra, because I don't think I would have ever been able to kind of get through any of that if it was just a regular review cap. I would have just ended up cutting it all out. My points would have been completely fucking pointless. Would have had no goddamn weight to them. They probably still have no fucking weight to them. But I thought it was something worth talking about and giving my opinion on. And if you disagree with me, then I 100% understand. I still don't think I can change my fucking opinion on it. Anyway, I would love to hear what you guys thought of this episode, what you guys thought of anything that I talked about in this extra. I'd love to get opinions. If you guys enjoyed, please, by all means, like and subscribe and share and all those things. Those really, really help. Channel's not been doing astoundingly well. I mean, I get roughly a view or two on every video, and that's okay. More would be nice, though. But also say thank you to everyone who checked out this. Sorry for being a rambly goddamn mess. But there were some things that I felt I needed to talk about in this episode. So I want to say thank you so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, do those things. In the next episode, we will be talking about, of course, Chapter 6, which I believe is known by its song. I don't mean the episode is. I mean, that's the title. Yeah. Well, so we'll talk about that, and hopefully, I really want to get caught up by the end of this week, or by something soon, because it's getting really good. And I would like to do a regular review cap on some of these later episodes, because it's getting kind of wild. I just got done watching episode 8 this week. God damn, there's some stuff to talk about. So until then, though, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you all so much for watching. Tuesdays, lemons. Bye-bye.